Hello, welcome to the Inside the Birds Week 6 NFL preview. I'm Geoff Mosher, and we're going to go around the NFL, and I'll preview all the games in Week 6, which, of course, started on Thursday night in a game that I'm not going to talk too much about. Obviously, we do a lot of Eagles coverage on Inside the Birds, so if you're looking for our analysis, we've got the post-game show, we've got the DeCecco Daily post-game show, and most Eagles fans already saw it. I'm just going to say this before we get started. Seen a lot of comments already. Woke up to a whole lot of commentary on different platforms that, the Eagles are now done and that the offensive coordinator's got to go. Everybody wants Kevin Patullo gone, fired, and get somebody else in here. Folks, it's Week 6. The Eagles are 4-2. And the bigger point of all of that is that the Eagles are not going to fire a guy 6 weeks into the season. That doesn't happen to teams that are coming off Super Bowl wins that are 4-2 that have one of those two losses to a team that made the playoffs last year. Did the Eagles have issues? Yes. Is the offensive coordinator part of that? Yes. Does the offensive coordinator have to do a good job, a better job? Does he have his fingerprints on what's gone on so far? Absolutely. But before you just waste, and I get the anger, I get the frustration. I understand that this is the second time that the Eagles have gone to a Super Bowl. Next year had a different coordinator and hasn't looked the same way. But before you go and rattle off something like that's just going to make you look wrong about fire this guy now. He's got to be replaced. They can't go another game without this. Just think about it. I mean, when's the last time you saw a coordinator 6 weeks into the season on a winning team get fired? It would have to be much worse than it is right now. And when you advocate for somebody to get fired, the first question I'm going to ask you is, who are you promoting? Who are you giving that job to? All right. Are you going to hand that job over to the new quarterback coach who just came over and was the head coach of Bowling Green? Are you comfortable with that? You say goodbye, Kevin Patullo. We're giving the job to Scott Loeffler. He's been the quarterback's coach. Guess what? The quarterback's not playing so good. So I don't think you want to give it to the quarterback coach. You want Nick Sirianni to call the plays because he called the plays for about 5 minutes in his first year and realized it wasn't for him. So before you go out there and try to, come up with ridiculous reasons for firing the offensive coordinator when there would be no logical person to come in and call the plays, think about it. You got to give this thing some time. And listen, it may not work out. Maybe Kevin Patullo is not ready for the job. Maybe he's not going to be the guy in the long term. If that's the case, it'll happen in the offseason. But remember also this. You're only as good as the guys that are available. And before last year, when the Eagles decided to clean house after the 2023 season with their coordinators, they were fortunate that Kellen Moore was available. Kellen Moore was an experienced play caller. He was somebody who had not only years of play calling experience, but for different teams, different quarterbacks, and he had also produced some number one offenses. So it made a whole lot of sense for the Eagles to be able to hire Kellen Moore at that time. This past offseason, I know that everybody said that they were worried about Patullo and what do you do, but who was out there? You got to look at the coaches that were fired. Do you want them all of a sudden back? Doug Peterson? Do you want Doug Peterson coming in as your offensive coordinator? That might have been a little bit awkward. So you want Chip Kelly? Chip Kelly got a offensive coordinator job in the NFL with the Raiders. How's that working out for the Raiders right now? All right. How would that have worked out if Chip Kelly came back as the Eagles offensive coordinator? Got to have a plan. You can't just fire people out of anger. All right. You can't just fire people out of 2 weeks, even though we know that the Eagles pass offense and rush offense has not worked correctly the right way for 6 weeks. But it has not also been a total disaster. This offense has functioned, the pass offense especially, within games fairly well. So I'm not trying to sell you a bill of goods. I'm not trying to tell you everything's going to be fine. I'm not trying to tell you anything other than that Kevin Patullo is not going to get fired within the next week or two, that they're going to have to figure some things out. He's going to get that time. We'll see what happens after the year, but it's not happening that he's going to get fired. Whenever someone runs to YouTube or Twitter or X or Facebook, it says Kevin Patullo's got to go. Get him out of here now. I wonder what rationale are you? How are you making the team better by doing that? Who are you putting in this person's place to all of a sudden make you feel comfortable with the offense? And by the way, it's not all his fault. Kellen Moore. We have to have a serious conversation about Kellen Moore and the results that he did last year as the Eagles offensive coordinator, because I've already seen, oh man, do I miss Kellen Moore? Well, do you know what the offense ranked under Kellen Moore last year? Specifically the pass offense? It was not very good. All right. The reason why Kellen Moore's offense looked good last year was because Saquon Barkley had an unbelievable year and the offensive line played great and stayed healthy. Well, right now your offensive line is not healthy, and that is prohibiting it from playing great. And your running game is suffering because of it. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't be better, and you're hearing guys talk about predictability, and that's got to be worked on. But that is the biggest reason, more than anything, that the Eagles offense as a whole isn't performing well. And Kellen Moore came to the Eagles last year, and I think we all remember the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season was not running he was trying to run his style of offense, had a lot of under center, a lot of motion, and he wound up scrapping a lot of that. You have to remember this, folks. The Eagles offense is basically the same conceptually that it has been under several different coordinators for the last 4 or 5 years. And I just don't think we should rewrite history and say Kellen Moore came in here and did an amazing job as an offensive coordinator because the Eagles won the Super Bowl. All right. He did an amazing job being the coordinator when he had a great offensive line and Howie Roseman signed Saquon Barkley. And that enabled the Eagles to have the best running game in the NFL, best offensive line in the NFL. But as a total offense, they were 8th, which is great. I mean, which is good, not great. They were 8th. Okay. As a passing offense, they were 29th. They averaged 188 yards per game. So are they behind that right now? Absolutely. They're not even at that right now. They're more about 180. Okay. So they're off the pace, but by 8 yards. I just don't want people to, yearn for something that didn't really exist. The idea that Kellen Moore came in and transformed the offense is just not true. Okay. And 2 things can be true at one time. One, Kellen Moore came in and won a Super Bowl as a coordinator without really changing a whole lot of the offense. But he might have been a better play caller, as far as they're all calling the same playbook, but he may have just been better than Kevin Patullo at sequencing those plays and, having some ideas to add to when to run the play is as important as the play that you're running. So maybe he had a better feel for that, but we can't rewrite history and act like Kellen Moore came in here and was running some kind of offense that Kevin Patullo is not capable of doing. It's not like that. So the Eagles have a lot of work to do. Remember how you felt about them last year when they were 2-2 and the sky was falling. I'm not ready to give up on the idea that this team is a bad team, or I'm not ready to get on board with the idea that this team isn't a Super Bowl team anymore, can't be good, still have a lot of talent. They just obviously have to figure some things out. I would say you don't have to fully believe that they will, but I do believe they have earned the benefit of the doubt to at least make you think that they can figure some things out. I don't think they have to make wholesale, radical offensive concept changes. I think they have to be obviously less predictable, and that means maybe doing things a little bit differently than they've done in the past. But if you really want to break it down to what they need to do, they have to get the run game back to where it was last year or close to where it was last year. That to me is the biggest difference. And I do believe if they do, and when they do that, the passing game will fall into place. The defense will be better because the offense will have more time of possession, more ball control, and the defense will be able to benefit from that. But right now, it's just a big cluster, you know what? And that's why they've lost 2 in a row. And that's why they go and lose to a 1-4 Giants team in a game that they weren't, frankly, very competitive. But we will see. They got the mini bye here, and then they've got the Vikings next Sunday. We have more bye weeks again this week. Minnesota, the Vikings will be coming off the bye when they play the Eagles next Sunday, and then the Houston Texans also on the bye as well.
Hey, you know that one guy in the group chat who hit a 5-leg parlay week 1 and he wouldn't shut up about it for the rest of the season? Sounds like Kaplan, right? Yeah, it could be him. It could be you, and we would all want to be you. MyBookie makes it stupid easy to get in on the action, whether it's college ball, NFL, super contest, and survivor pools. All the spreads, player props, and in-game lines that you could want all under one roof. What more could you want than that? If you're new to MyBookie, use our code, THEBIRDS, THEBIRDS, THEBIRDS. Use the code, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token. There is no better time to jump in right now. No better place to play. Football is back. Let's make some money with MyBookie.
Let us look at the early games. Now, there's obviously it's another week of a game in London, so you'll be able to wake up early if you live on the East Coast, 9:30 a.m., even earlier, I guess, if you live in Central or West Coast, but 9:30 a.m. for those of us on the East Coast will be able to see the Broncos at the Jets. The Broncos are 6.5-point favorites. 43.5 is the over-under. The Jets have been terrible defensively. There's no reason to think that the Broncos will not be, victorious in this game. The Jets, Aaron Glenn has been a disappointment. I gotta say, I didn't. It's not just the record. Okay, I didn't think the Jets were going to be very good this year. Usually, when you're cleaning house, bringing in a new GM, bringing in a new coach, bringing in new coordinators, and you're not a very talented team to begin with, then you're going to take a lot of losses earlier in the year. And they're doing that. I just thought that they would be a little more competitive, and B, a little better on defense, considering they have some pretty good defensive players, and Aaron Glenn's a defensive coach. But here's their 5 games so far. They've given up 34 points, 30 points, 29 points, 27 points to the Dolphins, and then 37 to the Dallas Cowboys. So Denver's going to come in there. They're going to run the ball with Harvey, and they're going to run the ball with Dobbins. They're going to throw the ball to Cortland Sutton, who had a great game second half against the Eagles, and they should be able to take control. Defensively, the Broncos are very, very good, and I do not expect Justin Fields, who's had some pretty good moments this year, to really do much. They need to run the ball, the Jets, and I don't think they'll be able to run the ball against this very, very good Broncos defensive front. Arizona at Indianapolis. Sounds like Kyler Murray is going to be a game-time decision. I don't think it matters much. I think that organization right now is at a real low point in the Jonathan Gannon era. They started off 2-0, lost a heartbreaker to the 49ers, lost, they made a comeback against the Seahawks, lost on a field goal, and then just completely blew it against the Titans last Sunday. The Titans win that game for the first win of the year. Obviously, they get the field goal at the buzzer to win it, which is now the Cardinals losing 2 of their last 3 in that fashion. Everybody saw the running back DeMercado and Gannon on the sideline. It just, Murray threw for 220 yards, no touchdowns though. And I said last week, sometimes it feels like it's Murray versus 11 out there because he just doesn't get much help from his playmakers. Some of that is on him, and some of that is just on what do you have after Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride? I mean, they're both McBride's very good. Uh, Harrison isn't what he's supposed to have been. The offensive line doesn't do much for me. It's not terrible. It's not great. Uh, and it's just a team that just not very good. You know, they committed penalties. They turned the ball over 3 times. Again, you saw the big turnover by DeMercado, and because of that, the Arizona Cardinals are in a bad way, and they're going into the Dome to play an Indianapolis team that's favored by 6.5. Wouldn't surprise me if the Colts won by even more than that. The Colts have just been a very, very impressive team so far this year. You could make the argument that they should be undefeated. You know, they lost the game 2 weeks ago because their receiver A.D. Mitchell had a holding on one touchdown and fumbled going into the end zone on another. They lose by 7 to the Rams. If they win that game, which they very easily could have done, they'd be 5-0, and away the Colts will be rolling. So you got to like what the Colts are doing. I think I wrote this on Philly Voice. I'm very now look forward in my power rankings. I wrote this. Look forward, and it's going to be a while, but for that first Colts Jaguars AFC South game, and that doesn't take place until week 14, December 7th. Until then, the Colts have really winnable games, starting with this Cardinals game. 2 weeks, they got the Chargers. We'll see if the Chargers are healthy or not. Then they get the Titans after that, then Steelers and Falcons. So the way they're playing, they pretty much can beat anybody, and I think that they're going to be a force in the AFC. By the way, you look at the AFC right now, Baltimore is not what it is. Baltimore's really struggling. Chiefs really struggling. Chargers have come back to earth. You look at the AFC, and you're looking and you're saying, it looks like the best teams right now in the AFC are the Colts and the Jaguars. I'm sorry, I don't recognize this AFC at the moment. That is incredible. And, if you want to pump up Denver now because of their win over the Eagles and they have some close losses, okay. But the point is, this is not the AFC. Everybody, I mean, the Bills look good, but they had a loss to New England, so they now look human. And you're looking at the AFC and saying, man, the Colts might be the most impressive team in the conference. Who had that on their 2025 NFL bingo card? Certainly not me. All right, the Chargers are in Miami. The Chargers are 3.5-point favorites. This is a very, very dangerous game for the Chargers. Why is that? Well, Joe Alt is out. He's their left tackle. He was replacing Rashawn Slater, their left tackle, who's been out for the year and will not play. So now the Chargers are without their offensive tackles, both of them very good, and Omarion Hampton, their great rookie running back, who is really starting to pick it up, is on, I believe he's on IR with an ankle injury. So he's definitely not going to play. I get worried about Justin Herbert when I hear that the Chargers have injuries on their offensive line because they have another lineman hurt, Pipkins too. And their running game is going to consist of Hassan Haskins and maybe Kamani Vidal. Justin Herbert's been playing great, but he's a guy who gets hit a whole lot when he does not have his protection and when he doesn't have a great running game. And, I'm not sure that the Dolphins, the way they play defense, have enough studs to really hit Herbert around, but I'm really talking more long-term than short-term. But I also think, though, that when the Chargers don't have their identity, two offensive, three linemen and a running back, they become a different team. Obviously they lost to the Giants. Then they came home and they lost badly to the Commanders. The Dolphins are a team that shouldn't theoretically threaten them as much as the Commanders. But if they don't have their identity, we just talked about with the Eagles, when they're not there, don't have their identity, they are a different kind of team. And I'm just saying, this game I'd stay away from a betting angle. I know the Dolphins are a mess. They're a terrible team. They don't play any defense whatsoever. They just lost to a bad Carolina Panthers team. Their only win is over a bad Jets team, and even that was a little bit too close for comfort. Honestly, the Dolphins should lose this game, but the injuries for the Chargers are giving me pause right now. And if you're the Chargers, you really got to figure out a way to win this one. You want to figure out a way because you got the Colts up next after that. You don't want to have a 3-game losing streak going into the Colts. You have the Vikings and Titans and Steelers and then Jaguars after that. But you got to have your identity if you're the Chargers. You're a Jim Harbaugh team. You're a Greg Roman offense. You want to pound the rock. You don't have a great guy without Omarion, without Najee Harris. Who are you pounding the rock with? Without 3 offensive linemen, how are you supporting your quarterback? So if you can't tell, I'm a little worried about the Chargers both this week and into the future. Next 1:00 game, you got the Patriots at the Saints. Hey, credit both of these teams. All right. You know what? The Patriots went into Foxborough. I said it on this show last week. I said, not went into Foxborough. They went into Buffalo. And I said, listen, you've been losing for so long and you finally got a quarterback, Drake May, who's playing well. These are you're on prime time for the first time in a very long time. These are the games where you have to show up. I didn't think the Patriots had to win. I felt they had to show up, be representative, send a statement to Buffalo that this division is going to finally have some other team that can challenge the Bills, not just Bills having 6 easy victories. Well, guess what? Not only did they be representative, but they went into Buffalo and came out with the 23-20 win. Drake May, if you haven't seen him play yet, is an exciting young talent. He's going to make a couple of mistakes, still just year 2, but he's got more weapons around him. Diggs is coming on. They're still waiting for Travion Henderson, still waiting for that running game to either be productive or stop turning the ball over. But May is a big part of what they do. He moves the chains with his legs. He has a great arm. He's throwing the ball to Diggs, throwing the ball to Hunter Henry. They're playing better defense. I like what I've seen from this Buffalo Bills squad. From this New England Patriots squad. And I like the fact that now when you look at the AFC East, you might say, hey, Buffalo, you can't just win by showing up against all 3 of these teams. You might be able to do it against the Jets and Dolphins, but at least against the Patriots, they're coming for you, and that makes the game fun. It makes the division a little more fun. So good job by the Patriots. They are 3.5-point favorites to a Saints team that amazingly was down to the Giants, came back and won that game kind of big. I mean, they withstood the early Giants barrage. You know, the Giants were coming off that win against the Chargers, and then they went up 7-0, and they had a 14-3 lead. But gradually, the Saints chipped away, and they scored, and then they scored again with Shaheed getting a big touchdown, then a couple of field goals. Next thing you know, they're winning 26-14 for their first win of the year. Now, part of that was they're playing a Giants team that's going to be up and down with Jackson Dart and Scatterboo, but they were home. The Saints always play better at home than they do on the road. The Dome gives them a huge advantage, and it might give them a little bit of an advantage against this Patriots team, which is coming off a huge win. How often do we see these young upcoming teams get themselves a big win like they got in Buffalo, then they go on the road and they completely go in the tank? So I would expect this game to kind of have a little flavor to it, even though the Saints are not a very good team. But I like where New England's going. And if they can come out of this game with a win, you're starting to look at the Patriots like that team that might be able to make a little bit of noise, if not this year, but in the future. You're liking the direction where they're going, then kind of takes the stink away from that season opening loss that they had to the Raiders, and then that very close loss that they had at home to the Steelers. All right, Dallas at Carolina. Folks, if you like points, if you like to see the ball in the air or just running backs into the end zone, well, this is the game for you. This is a game between a Cowboys team that has functioned very well offensively without CeeDee Lamb for a few weeks, and doesn't sound like he'll definitively be back. We'll see. If he is, that's great. But they just scored 37 against the Jets. They put 40 on a good Green Bay team. I don't know what happened in that Bears game in week 3 when they went into Chicago and only scored 14 points. But before that, they had scored 40 against the Giants in that, back and forth game. This team can score, and Dak is coming on. And he's been the fact that he has been able to throw the ball without CeeDee Lamb to not only Pickens, but Flournoy got into it. Jake Ferguson, I had a feeling was going to really pick it up while CeeDee Lamb is out. Dak loves his tight ends. He loves the down the alley throws and the seams, and he's very good at it. And you got to give Brian Schottenheimer a lot of credit. I think their offense is clicking a whole lot more than it has under McCarthy. Dak is spreading the ball around, and let's face it, he's about to face a Carolina Panthers team that is not very good. They're sporadic, they're strange. They just barely beat the Dolphins because their backup running back, Rico Dowdle, went berserk in place of Chuba Hubbard with 206 rushing yards and 28 more in the air. I mean, the guy almost had 250 yards by himself, and he's going to start again because it sounds like Chuba Hubbard is going to be out. But it took that for them to beat a really bad Dolphins team. So I like this game for Dallas. I do think Carolina will be able to move the ball. Concerned how Bryce Young has played throughout the first 5 weeks of the season. Really been up and down. I thought Dave Canales, after last year, kind of reviving him, would be able to take a second step. They don't have a bunch of great weapons. I get that. Ted McMillan's off to a decent start. Leggett has given them very little. I know he had a touchdown against the Dolphins, but yeah, it's fair to say they don't have a ton of weaponry, but if they can rush for 206 yards, their offensive line must be doing something decently. I know they were at Moton's banged up, but I'm thinking this game is going to be something like, the Cowboys are in the upper 30s and the Panthers may get into the upper 20s, and we'll see. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites, and hey, the Cowboys win the game. They'll be, they got this tie that might factor into their advantage because it's not a loss when it comes down to the end of the year and maybe having a similar record as another team. But it'll be a Cowboys team that, if they win this game, will be 3-1-1 in their last 5. And then that sets up a very, very interesting Week 7 matchup for them against the Washington Commanders. Seattle at Jacksonville. Folks, if you have not seen the Seahawks play, and I get it, they lost at home to Tampa. It was a back and forth game. It was a great game. It was a game between two defenses that had been playing very well, but the quarterbacks for both teams have been playing better. And even in a loss, Sam Darnold played extraordinarily well. He is on some kind of heater right now. He's got the highest yards per attempt in the league. His quarterback rating is over 120, I believe. He is connecting with Jackson Dart. Not Jackson Dart. He's connecting with Jackson Smith and Jigba 6 to 10 times a game. That has become one of the premier connections in the NFL. And to be fair, he's doing it in a new team, new offensive coordinator, new system. So everyone who thought that Sam Darnold was simply a product of the Kevin O'Connell system last year in Minnesota is probably pretty surprised right now, because I got to say, he had way better weaponry in Minnesota than he does in Seattle. Smith and Jigba is a very good receiver, could be top 10. After that, there's no Tyler Lockett, right? There's no tight end that is named Kittle or Kelsey or Goddard. It's Barner. Okay. There's no DK Metcalf. He was traded. So he's got Smith and Jigba, and they have a good running game. But for him to be completing 70% of his passes and playing this well, 35 points against the Bucks, 44 against the Saints a couple of weeks ago, 31 against the Steelers on the road in Pittsburgh, Sam Darnold's playing really, really well. And now they go face a Jacksonville Jaguars team that is coming off the ultimate high. They beat the Chiefs, which they willed themselves to win. Trevor Lawrence had the strangest, ugliest, most beautiful touchdown to win the game that you'll ever see in your life. The guy falls down, gets up, stumbles, falls forward, and next thing you know, he's in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown that puts the Jaguars at 4-1. And these are not bad wins. All right, they beat the Chiefs. beat the 49ers in San Francisco the week before. They beat the Texans 17-10. The Texans are a playoff team from last year. I'm not saying they got wins over juggernaut teams, but I didn't think Jacksonville was going to be very good going into the year. And I still think offensively, they leave a lot to be desired, but they're coming along. They're getting this connection between Lawrence and Brian Thomas. It's starting to come. It's growing. Now they'll be without Brenton Strange, who tight end. He got hurt, and he's been a big part of their offense. So that's going to hurt them. And this should be a really good game. Seattle really kind of needs to bounce back because as good as Darnold has played, as nice as the offense has been, every game they play the last 2 weeks have been very close. They were up big on the Cardinals. The Cardinals came back. They won the game on a last-minute second field goal. And then that Buccaneers game was just a shootout back and forth and back and forth. And it's not the offense's fault, but the defense could not stop Baker Mayfield, who's playing at a really high level. I don't think Lawrence is playing at the level that Mayfield has played right now. So if I'm the Jaguars, I can't be too full of myself at 4-1 and coming off a win against the Chiefs. Got to stay focused. Got to stay the line. And it is not a shock to me at all, though, that the Seahawks are 1.5 point favorites going into this game. This should be a heck of a game between two teams that are off to really good starts. On the flip side, you have the Baltimore Ravens, who are, I wonder when the last time this has happened. They are 7.5 point underdogs at home against a team from the West Coast traveling to them to play a 1:00 game, the Los Angeles Rams. And look, we all know that the Ravens are a very talented team. Now, they were having issues before all the injuries. All right. They had issues in the opening game when they were up big on Buffalo, turned the ball over, and then just hemorrhaged points in the fourth quarter and lost. All right. They had issues when they played the Lions and lost 38-30. And then the injuries started to really impact them. They lose to the Chiefs, and then they just get embarrassed at home by a Houston Texans team that scores 44 points. This is a Texans team that was struggling to score 20 points throughout the year. All right. This is a Texans team that scored its 44th point of the year in its fourth game. All right. If you go look at their first 3 games, they only scored 38 points. They scored 44 in this game against the Ravens. So that just shows you how far of a fall it's been for the Ravens. Obviously, that's going to happen when you don't have Lamar, when you don't have half your defense. Defense wasn't playing very good in the first spot, but the schedule makers do them no favors as they welcome a Rams team that honestly, if we're being objective about the Rams, they have given 2 games away, right? They absolutely could be 5-0. And I hate to play they could be because every team has games where you do something and you say the other opponent, but we all saw the game against the Eagles. They outplayed the Eagles. They should have won that game. The Eagles blocked 2 field goals, returned 1 for a touchdown. It's unbelievable. I mean, it was one of the craziest endings of a game you'll ever see. But you know what? They also turned the ball over in that game. The Rams did. All right. Stafford had that interception early in the game that gave the Eagles I don't want to say gave him an easy touchdown, but it put him right in Rams territory at the start. And of course, the Eagles turned that into a touchdown. And then they lost to the 49ers last week, the Thursday night game, I think that was 26-23. And both Corum and Kyren Williams put the ball on the ground. Williams was going into the end zone when he put the ball on the ground and lost a fumble. The Rams are a very talented team. Stafford's playing really well. Nakua and Adams give him his best weaponry when you combine that with their ground game that Stafford has had. This team can contend for the Super Bowl if it just gets out of its own way. You cannot put the ball on the ground the way the Rams are doing that. If they clean that up, they're going to be a very, very difficult team to beat the way they're playing. They are their own worst enemy. And unfortunately for the Ravens, who have also turned the ball over and played bad defense, the Rams are coming to town, and they're probably with the mini bye, since they had played the Thursday night, they're probably pretty motivated to show everybody that they are a lot better than their record suggests. And the record ain't bad, but they could be 5-0, and they'll probably be 6-0 coming out of this game. I was very wrong about Baltimore last week, by the way. I'll admit it. I said, despite all the injuries, the Ravens have a lot of pride, and they are a great franchise, and they would not embarrass themselves against the Texans. I said that, and I was wrong. But that also illustrates, because the Ravens are usually, even with injuries, always going to be a representative team. The fact that they were that bad just shows you how in a world of hurt that they are right now. And they really need that bye after this week. They need to get healthy. And if they lose this game, man, are they in a real world of hurt at 1-5? Because then you got to look at the schedule and say, well, how many winnable games here? We get Lamar back coming out of the bye. We get the Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns. Okay, Jets. Hey, can we win all 5 of those games and get to 5-4? Maybe. Then the Bengals after that, 6-4. If you can win that, then you get Steelers, Bengals again. Yeah, the schedule lightens up. It really does. I look at this Ravens schedule and I say all they have to do is get healthy. So we'll see what happens there. But remember, they were playing very bad on defense even before the injuries came in. Sports are all about competition. Every snap, every possession, every clutch moment matters. That same energy is what 1v1 Me brings to video games. Every single day, you can watch and stake on matchups in Madden, NBA 2K, FC, and Call of Duty Search and Destroy. All the games are streamed live. Every match has refs, and payouts are instant. And these aren't just random online lobbies. These are the best players in the scene, pros, streamers, and rivals. With season playoffs and the championship game on the line, every game matters. Over $100 million has already been paid out on the app, and the community is growing fast. If you're a sports fan, a gamer, or just someone who loves having a little extra on the line, 1v1 Me is where you need to be. It's not just about winning, it's about the bragging rights too. Every match has a chat going crazy, and you can back your picks in real time. Download today and use code BIRDS. Your first stake on the app is risk-free. That's code BIRDS for a risk-free first stake. All right, that is the 1 o'clock games. Let's get to the 4 o'clock games. All right, you got Titans at Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have been a mess. Colton Miller, their left tackle, very good left tackle. It sounds like he's out, and I just don't know where the Raiders go from here. Geno Smith, another thing I was not right about, like Baltimore last week. I thought Geno Smith was going to give them more of an opportunity to compete. And after they won week 1 against the Patriots, I made that statement. I said, that's what happens when you add at least a professional quarterback like Geno Smith to your offense, and you've got someone like Ashton Genty who wasn't getting the ball early. But you know what? Geno has not played well. I can't sugarcoat it. I've been a fan of his game. He's usually an accurate quarterback. I've said before he'll make a decision every now and then that will cost the team, but he's making far too many of them. Maybe he's pressing, trying to make up for the fact that he's on a bad team, but clearly the Raiders are not a very good team. The Titans, they're not a good team either. They get buoyed by their win over the Cardinals. Can they make it 2 in a row? Will that help them? Will it help Brian Callahan save his job? I don't know. The Raiders are still 3.5-point favorites. Anybody can win this game. Kind of feels like both teams are very can easily lose this game, but I'm got my eyes on Cam Ward here. I got my eyes on Cam Ward. I like Cam Ward. He's coming off a big win, a comeback win, first win. Go get 2. All right, go beat this Raiders team and start to show progression and development and make the Tennessee Titan fan want to come back to the stadium and root again because Cam Ward showed you something. That's what I would like to see from Cam Ward in this game. Bengals at Packers. Now, this is unbelievable. The Bengals, and deservedly so, decide to completely give up on the Jake Browning experiment. And out of nowhere, this is how the Browns coach, Kevin Stefanski, talked about it. Out of nowhere, the Bengals call up and say, we want Joe Flacco. And the Browns say, sure, we're on to Dylan Gabriel anyway. Here you go. And now you've got Joe Flacco. And I want to say that this is a good thing for Higgins. It's a good thing for Chase. It's a good thing for Chase Brown. It's a good thing for Zach Taylor and the Bengals offense because Joe Flacco has an arm. He has experience. He can drive the ball. Yes, he's going to make a lot of mistakes at times. Yes, he wasn't doing a very good job in Cleveland, which was kind of a mess of a situation. But Cincinnati's not that much better of a situation as far as offensive line and how the team is going right now, but the weapons are there. So I can see Joe Flacco having a good passing game, but I can't imagine that Joe Flacco is going to make some huge difference and get the Bengals back. But we'll see. The most interesting thing about the trade and the fact that they're starting him right away is that they are in Green Bay. And so that means Joe Flacco, who beat the Packers in week 3 in Cleveland with the Browns, at least knows the team he's going up against. I mean, he game planned for the Packers for the entire week and managed to beat them. So maybe that was part of the Bengals thinking. I mean, A, they just needed a quarterback, a real professional quarterback. Flacco is still that. And B, they got a guy who's already beat their opponent. It's a fun storyline. I don't think it's going to matter very much. I think the Packers are going to win this game. I'm not quite sure how well Flacco is going to be able to play. The Packers are 14.5-point favorites. That's a big line. If you're feeling a little, frisky, you may want to, lay some down on the Bengals to cover. I don't know. I could absolutely see them getting destroyed at the same time. But the Bengals, they are going to be an interesting team now to watch because of this. And by the way, the Packers are undefeated when they're at Lambeau this year. The first 2 games were at Lambeau, and they look like a completely different team. They beat the Lions and the Commanders, and that was when Jaden Daniels was healthy in weeks 1 and weeks 2, both double-digit wins, 27-13, 27-18. Then they go away from Lambeau, and they lose to the Browns, as I mentioned. They tie the Cowboys. Their defense looks terrible. And then they get the bye week, and then they come home for the Bengals. So it's pretty good. You're in good shape if you're the Packers this Sunday. You've got your rest. You're going up against a bad Bengals team that just traded for a quarterback. You got Micah Parsons getting healthier. Christian Watson doesn't sound like he's going to play in this game, but he's making some progress, and perhaps he will be able to rejoin their offense the following week. And that also might help the Packers take it up to another level. And guess what? That'll be against the Cardinals. So it's nice for the Packers to have the Bengals and the Cardinals in back-to-back weeks. San Francisco at Tampa Bay. I like this game. How about Tampa Bay? First, you're on the road at San Francisco. You pull it out. I'm sorry, at Seattle. You pull it out. Then you come home and you play another NFC West team. I'm not sure that there's anybody playing at a higher level at the quarterback position right now than Baker Mayfield. I mean, he lost Mike Evans after week 3. They're already 3-0. They moved the ball very well against the Eagles. We all saw how they lost that game. Then they go on the road into Seattle and win an absolute shootout. And right now, I talked about the Darnold, Smith, and Jigba connection, but holy cow, the Mayfield, Emeka Egbuka connection might be the most prolific one in the NFL right now. This rookie has been unbelievable. And so is Baker, by the way. You lose Mike Evans, you get Godwin back, but he's clearly not the Godwin of full health. And in fact, I don't think he's going to play in this game. And you don't have Bucky Irving, your best running back, your two-way threat, and you still score 38 points and win a shootout in Seattle. Hey, you get my ultimate respect. Baker's playing really, really well. And they are a tough team right now. And they are clearly in their division a candidate to go 6-0 in that division. And as I mentioned before, if you go 6-0 in your own division, then really all you got to do is find 5 or 6 non-division wins. Well, you got one against the Texans, one against the Jets, one against the Seahawks right now. So really, you're looking at your schedule and you're saying, do I got 3 more non-NFC South games that I can win? Well, they have the Cardinals on the schedule. They got the Dolphins on the schedule. And in the next 2 weeks, 49ers, Lions. Lions will be tough, but 49ers this week. That's what makes this a big game. If they win this game, against the 49ers, who are still banged up at a lot of spots, then you can just pencil the Buccaneers in probably for a 2 seed. I might be getting ahead of myself, but you can definitely see them winning 12 or 13 games as long as they don't have like major injuries. They are 3.5-point favorites. The 49ers are basically scratching and clawing every week, and I give them credit for it. Again, they took advantage of those Rams turnovers to win that Thursday night game, but they are not healthy. They're getting healthier. I think Pearsall is going to be back, but doesn't sound like Kittle is going to be ready. They're still waiting on Ayuk. It sounds like he's a couple of weeks away. They got Bosa is out for the year. We all know that. They have other injuries. Mac Jones may have to start, and he's banged up. So the Buccaneers are in a good spot here, despite the fact that they've got a lot of injuries. And it sounds like they won't have Irving, Evans, and Goodwin in this game, but I'm not picking against them because the Buccaneers are playing at a really good high level. And like I said, Baker's been fantastic. All right, the Sunday night game. Let's get into that. Hey, fall is planting season. Did you know that many plants and trees actually do better when planted this time of the year? But you got to know where to start, and that's why I love fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter if you live in the sunny south or if the air's getting a little chilly where you are, the plant experts can help you find the perfect fit for your space. They've got everything your yard needs: fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, flowering trees, so much more. And Fast Growing Trees makes it so easy for you to have your dream yard because you can order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door. If you're like me, you're tired of spending way too much money on landscaping. And if you walk into one of those nurseries and you look at all the stuff they have, you have no idea where to begin. That's why you need fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter about the size of your yard. They got over 6,000 plants to fit any space, and a 14-point quality checklist ensures you will get the best quality plants possible. This fall, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code BIRDS at checkout. 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code BIRDS at checkout. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use BIRDS to save today. The offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Check out the link below or in the show notes and support the show. Hey, Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Parking, traffic, long lines. We've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting. And they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about the guest experience. Their staff makes sure you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you know you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up. This game should be interesting. The Chiefs are at home against the Lions. The Lions are 2.5-point favorites. Boy, I remember the Eagles were favorited when they went to Kansas City in week 2. Now the Lions are favorites. Can anybody remember the last time the Chiefs were home dogs twice in 4 weeks, let alone a year? I mean, that is unbelievable, but it's fair. Chiefs aren't the type of team that you can just roll over. I mean, the Jaguars had to come and win that game in the fourth quarter, but obviously there's things missing. They look like they were on a roll. They beat the Giants 22-9. The Giants stunk and still do. They beat the Ravens, from the Ravens we just talked about. You lose a close one to the Jaguars, and now you got to play a Lions team that is on a real roll. I think the Chiefs will be able to score. The question is, can they outscore Detroit? Now, the Lions did lose. It sounds like Terry and Arnold's going to be out for a little bit. So the Lions always have like 3 or 4 guys who are injured. Aleem McNeil, I don't think will come back. They're a very good defensive tackle this week. He'll probably be back soon from last year's ACL, but not this week. So I think the Chiefs will be able to move the ball against the Lions, but I don't know if they'll be able to stop the Lions from scoring. And the only thing I can say is it's outdoors against a Chiefs team that will bring pressure. And I don't know if I always trust Jared Goff on the road outdoors against a team that can bring the heat like this. You know, they beat the Bengals last week. The Bengals can't bring it. The Bengals bring the ice. They bring the red carpet treatment. Okay. They beat the Ravens in week 3, 38-30, but the Ravens have struggled. And that was in Baltimore. The Ravens have struggled defensively way more than the Chiefs have. So I kind of think this game is going to be close. And even though the Chiefs are underdogs, I give them a puncher's chance. I would totally stay away from this game from a betting standpoint. But this is an opportunity for the Lions, with the Eagles losing Thursday night, to really reclaim the status that they had at this time last year as the NFC's top team. You know, they got all those injuries last year. The Eagles caught fire right around week 6, week 7. They started off that way. They started winning games week 5, 6, and 7, but they really caught fire. The Eagles did later in the year. The Lions were on fire from the start and withstood all of these injuries, but eventually it caught up with them. They're healthier now, and they look like they are on some kind of roll. So this will be a really fun game. And if the Lions win, you've got to consider them, at least momentarily, the team to beat in the NFC. You look at the Lions and you look at the Bucks, and you say, until the Eagles really look like the Eagles again, you'd have to consider the Lions and the Bucks to be the two teams in the NFC that look the strongest. All right, once again, you got 2 Monday night games. We'll talk about these Monday night games. Buffalo is in Atlanta, and if you're the Falcons, you're probably pretty annoyed, to be honest with you, that you're annoyed at the Patriots. You're annoyed that the Patriots went and made the Bills mad, and now you got to welcome a team. You're coming off the bye week. Before that, you beat a Washington Commanders team that didn't have Jaden Daniels, so you got yourself back to 500. You want to feel good, and now you got to welcome a very angry Buffalo Bills team into your stadium, and I wouldn't want to be in that spot if I were the Falcons. I don't like the Falcons a whole lot in this game. Buffalo is 4.5-point favorites. The Falcons have been better defensively than offensively, but they still have had some weird, offense. They've had some weird defensive games. The Commanders put up 27 on them with a backup quarterback, and somehow they gave up 30 points to the Panthers in a ridiculous 30-0 loss that I still cannot wrap my head around, my brain around. Doesn't let me process it. So I don't really think they're going to be able to stop this Bills team that definitely looked a little vulnerable in that loss to the Patriots, but probably is out for blood this week to come back and show everybody that was just a blip on the radar. And then you got a great game, 8:15 game. You have a rematch of last year's Hail Mary spectacular between the Bears and the Commanders. We all know that the Commanders won that game on a Hail Mary. The guy that the Bears safety was supposed to be covering caught the Hail Mary while he was jawing with the crowd, and that was just basically a microcosm of the Bears season. But what fascinates me about that is this. If you remember last year, before that Hail Mary game, all right, the Bears had won 3 straight games, and they were 4-2. This is Caleb Williams' first year. They looked like they had turned a corner after beating the Rams, the Panthers, and the Jaguars 3 straight weeks to go to 4-2. And then they lost that Hail Mary game and lost like 8 games in a row. All right. They were bad. Might have been more than that. In fact, I'll look at it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They lost 10 games in a row. That Hail Mary game was the start of a 10-game losing streak. All right. And I only bring that up because right now, the Bears, after losing their first 2 games of the year, came back. They beat the Cowboys in their own state and at home in Chicago, 31-14. And then they outlasted a bad Raiders team 25-24. And then they had the bye. So they had some times to figure some things out. I think what they need to figure out is how to get their 2 rookies that they drafted in the top 40 into the offense. They got to figure out how to get Luther Burden into the offense and how to get Colston Loveland, 10th overall pick, into the offense, because those 2 guys haven't really done very much. It's been the Rome Odunze show, which is nice for Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, but DJ Moore really not been a factor into their offense. And if you're going to go beat the Commanders, you have Jaden Daniels back, and they have a good pass rush. The Commanders have a better pass rush, especially from the edges, than I anticipated that they would have. We knew they were strong up the middle, but their deficiency was edge rusher. That's why they signed Von Miller, dusted the cobwebs off him, but he's played all right. Dorrance Armstrong has played really well. The Commanders can rush the passer, and they can get after you. That was an impressive win they had against the Chargers last week, going out on the road in L.A. and winning that game. And they want to, just like everybody else, they're looking at the Eagles and saying, now is our time to make a move. They're a better team than the Bears. They should beat the Bears. And if you're the Bears, you don't want this in the back of your mind. Another loss to the Commanders that kickstarted a 10-game losing streak last year. I think it'll be a pretty good game. Washington's the home team. They're 4.5-point favorites. It's a very important game for both teams. For the Bears, it's sort of putting last year's disappointment behind them and showing that they actually have turned a corner in winning their last 2 games. And for the Commanders, with Jaden Daniels healthy again, and it doesn't sound like, I don't know that they're going to be able to get McLaurin back. I mean, they're still limited offensively. They're doing the most they can. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, or Bill Merritt, as he likes to be called, has now taken the role as their number 1 running back. He gives them a little playmaking ability. I like it. They're a very well-coached team, the Commanders are. And this is an important game for them because they're going to look at the standings and say, hey, we win this game. Guess what? Guess what our record is now? Yeah, 4-2. That's what the Eagles are. Okay, so everybody's got their eye on the Eagles, and everybody's got their eye on making their move while the Eagles are down. Because like me, they're all probably thinking the same thing. We have to win games when the Eagles don't, because eventually the Eagles they'll figure out their problems, and they will probably be a very competitive team once they do. So let's get our opportunities. Let's capitalize on them while we have the chance. All right, time to go through my picks of the week.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
Before I give you my picks, I'm going to do a 2-in-1 deal here because I realized I skipped a 1:00 game with the Steelers being 6.5-point favorites over the Browns. The Steelers are coming off the bye week. I still am very skeptical of their long-term, future. Their running game gives me some pause. Defense has played better. I know they were out across the pond in Ireland, when they played the Vikings, won that game 24-21. Their defense played pretty well. They're coming off two wins over the Vikings and the Patriots, and then they had the bye. So I'm still skeptical of them, but Steelers-Browns is a rivalry. It's at Pittsburgh, and they're 6.5-point favorites, and that's going to be one of the games that I take. I like the Steelers to cover the 6.5 against the Browns this week. That is my first pick. Now, last week, I forgot to mention, I got back into the win column. I went 2-1. I had taken the Colts 6.5 over the Raiders. I won on that. I had the Cowboys 1.5 at the Jets. I won on that. I did lose. The Chiefs were favored by 3.5 over the Jags. Obviously, they lost the game, so I went 2-1, and now I'm 5-10 for the year. But I feel like I'm about to make my move now that the uncertainty of the first 3 to 4 weeks is behind us. So again, I like Steelers covering the 6.5 in Pittsburgh against the Browns. I'm going to stay with the Colts. The Colts keep getting a nice cake schedule. They're 6.5-point favorites at home again, this time against the Cardinals. We'll see about Kyler Murray, but regardless, I think the way Jonathan Taylor's running the ball, the way Daniel Jones is getting the ball to Warren and Pittman, and the way the defense is playing, that the Colts should win that game by more than a touchdown. And I like the Cowboys as 3.5-point favorites over the Panthers. I don't love the Cowboys defense, but I don't love the Panthers defense either. And I think the Cowboys are going to score a whole lot of points in that game. Should be able to win and cover the 3.5. So that's going to do it for the Inside the Birds Week 6 NFL preview. As always, as I tell you, enjoy your football watching.